A World Cup every 2 years, the revamping of the footballing calendar as we know it. Is it good for players? Is it bad for players? We're going to figure it out today. But firstly, we need to know, why is this even happening? Listen, don't ask me. Ask the guy who literally proposed it himself. Arsene, you're up.
What do the national team coaches complain today? We cannot train, we cannot practice. And what do the coaches, the club football club managers say? Our players go too many times away, we cannot work with them. That's why I propose a better separation, and the club's interest is protected, and the national team would have a better periods where they can work with the players.
Right, fair enough, eloquently put. Better for the clubs, better for the international teams. Did not mention the players. Players, what do you think? Mbappe, you're up. We play over 60 games in a year. You have Euros, the World Cup, now the Nations League. So many competitions. We are happy to play, but when it's too much, it's too much. We have to recover. We have to stay relaxed. Robert Lewandowski, if you want to offer something special, something different, we also need a break. If we have a World Cup every 2 years, the expectation is time where footballers play at a high level will go down. It's physically and mentally impossible. So is this good for players or bad for players? We're going to figure this out. We're going to dive into FIFA's exact plans on this and figure it out. If you like this type of content, actually hit like, join the party, subscribe. Let's go. Right, okay, so what is the actual proposal by FIFA, yeah? Let's look at the presentation. Let's go. Right, so here it is in FIFA's own presentation, yeah? Laid bare. So this is the footballing calendar in a World Cup year. At the moment, runs August through to August, obviously, 5 international breaks. What they want to do is basically bring it together. So either in option 1, there's just like a little mini international season sometime in October, maybe all of October, where you bang out all the qualifying, World Cup at the end. Or you have 2 mini international seasons, so like a prolonged international break in October, a prolonged international break in March, and then a World Cup in the end of the year, right? Listen, that doesn't sound crazy. That doesn't sound outrageous so far. In terms of the tournament cycle, what we're all interested in, at the moment, of course, we've got a World Cup every 4 years, and then you've got the independent federations having their tournaments at intervals throughout. At the moment, it does look a bit of a mess. What FIFA would like is this. World Cup being sort of the anchor every other year, and then the federations tournament sort of in between, as and when, okay? So that would essentially be international football potentially every summer. Good thing or bad thing? Let you guys decide. This is what they claim though. This is the important part, right? This is what they claim. In terms of player welfare, so I'll just zoom in on the player welfare bits. Less travel for players, less stop and go, no increase in the number of games, and guaranteed rest for players. Is that true? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fact check this all for you now, okay? So let's get the easy one out of the way first. Less travel for players, less stop and go. I'm going to give FIFA the W for this. Okay, Wenger, tell me what you think, pal.
We have made as well this proposal to reduce the traveling. For example, up to now, a player who plays from South America in Europe, per year, he makes 80,000 kilometers flight. What we propose, we divide by 2.
Mr. Wenger is 100% right about that. It is less travel for players, less issues associated with travel as well. Obviously, the jet lag coming in and out of time zones, the tiredness, the fatigue that could potentially lead to injury. Instead of 5 international breaks, you have 1, maximum 2. So less travel. Give them the W for that. The second part I really want to hone in on is what they've said about the rest for players and the number of games. Okay, listen to what Mr. Wenger says about this.
We do not, with what we propose, you don't play more games. What I want to add to that is we have a mandatory rest period. Every club has to give 25 days rest. Can go 26, 27. We have room enough to do it. It's more mental, you know that. It's not physically today. The players are prepared, looked after. Every scientist overprotects the players now.
Okay, so firstly, is there really going to be the same number of games? That is a half-truth, okay? Let's look at our calendar, okay? Go back to our calendar. As it stands, we got, obviously just an international and domestic season together, 5 international breaks, amalgamated into 1 or 2. So the number of games should be the same, right? In theory. If we look at it differently, if we look at it over the 4-year cycle, that's when we start to see the number of games go up. As it stands at the moment, you got a World Cup, then you got the international federations tournaments, and then a World Cup in the 4th year. So normally a player will have a summer off or 2 summers off depending on where in the world they're from. However, with FIFA's proposal currently as it is, there's international football every summer. So over a 4-year cycle, the players are playing more. So maybe in one individual season, the maximum number of games doesn't go up, but the total number of games over the 4-year footballing cycle definitely goes up. You either have no breaks in a summer, or you might have one summer off over a 4-year period. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I will discuss that. But I'm just saying the number of games has to go up. The final bit we need to discuss is the level of rest. So he thinks more mandated rest for players. Okay. So we talk about more mandated rest for the players. It is true that under the new proposals, they're mandating an obligatory break at individual level of 25 to 28 days for all players. Okay. So let's talk about that break first. It's an obligatory break. But is it going to be enforced in any way, or is it going to be a soft recommendation, right? If for somehow they manage to get it, so it's an obligatory break. So the moment that player gets knocked out of the international tournament, it's like, don't chat to me. International Federation, don't chat to me. Club, don't chat to me. Do not text me. I will not be answering. Do not call my phone. You are blocked for 28 days. Will that happen though? Or will they book a 2-week holiday, come back to London or whatever city, and get a text from the sports scientist being, do you want to come and do a bit of pre-season testing, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. Will they have that full 28 days rest from footballing activities? I suppose it's up to the player, it's up to the club, really what they do. That's not FIFA's fault, but still something to bear in mind. The second thing is this, again, look at the May, June, July section. What you can see is that in order to accommodate this mandatory break, things have been slightly pushed forward to kind of end of May, very early June, as opposed to the kind of mid-June we have now. So my question is, if you move everything in the summer slightly forward to accommodate this obligatory break, fair enough, does that not leave the domestic schedule slightly more squashed together? And if it's more squashed together, does that not lead to more fixture congestion and more back-to-back games? Back-to-back games is one of the big complaints that FIFA Pro have in terms of player welfare. More games without players' ability to recover in between games. More games in the critical zone, as they call it. And I've done videos on the critical zone. That's what they're worried about, and that's what I think could potentially happen with this proposal. However, the flip side is, having kind of longer stints in the domestic league without the sort of international breaks, that might allow domestic leagues to organise their fixtures better, give the players more breaks. The point I'm making is that the players will get more mandated rest if we mandate that rest. And are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Are we going to change the rules to make sure it's happening or not? That's the question. Does the obligatory break at the end of the season lead to a more congested domestic season when we actually have it? Secondly, international football has very congested fixture list, obviously, as their tournaments. The teams are playing 2-3 times a week. So that's more fixture congestion. That's more back-to-back fixtures. Interestingly, this was brought up in the video. Listen to this closely.
Saturday, Wednesday, or Saturday, no game midweek, and play Saturday. When I look back in my career, I wanted to bounce the games out because the rhythm.
To ask any player in the world, do you want to play 3 games in a week, or do you want to have a whole week of hard training? You say, no, let me play on Wednesday,
So I saw that clip just to show the mentality and maybe where people's heads at with regards to fixture congestion. Do we think it's as bad a thing as it's being made out to be? To be honest, for me, when I'm traveling with a team, I love the games. Match days are the best part of the week. I just can't be bothered to travel. The travel 3 times a week was hellish. So I don't know, maybe there is a point there. But if we dish out our L's and our W's, you got to give a W to FIFA for, yes, less travel, less stop and go throughout the season. No increase in the number of games. I don't think that's actually true over a 4-year period. I'm not even saying it's a good thing or bad thing. I'm just saying I don't think that's necessarily true. Guaranteed rest for players. It's only guaranteed if you guarantee it. So it depends how that's enforced. And how will that make the fixture congestion throughout the domestic season? That is yet to be seen. So is this good for players or is this not good for players? Don't worry, I haven't forgotten that question. My answer is, what players? Sometimes when we think of players, we only think of European, domestic, superstar players, okay? Listen to this from Arsene.
As I managed for 40 years, I had problems with the players who did not play. Never with the players who played. I feel sorry for the players who don't play. For the players who play, let's not go overboard. The players want to play big games. Rio, you have played for 18 years at the top level. It didn't kill you. You look in the perfect shape. I think a guy who plays football, he's a happy boy.
Right, so that's my genuine thoughts. Okay, so I do think it might mean less rest for players. I do think it might mean more game for certain players. But what I'm also saying is that not all players are the top 10% of European players, okay? Most players want the opportunity to play. They want the opportunity to shine. They're on their bench. They're fringe players. They're fighting for positions in the squad. And they want to play. They want to represent their country. Most people in the world don't have a chance to play in the Champions League week in, week out. Maybe international football is their great opportunity, their great hope. And essentially, we need to understand that when we talk about player welfare, let's talk about all players. When we talk about more games and this, that, and the other, let's realise we've got more footballers than we know what to do with. Obviously, we focus on the singularity talents because they are singularities, but there's so many players out there who want their chance. So I just think maybe you got to think about it both ways. Definitely more games, probably less rest, but more opportunities for players. So think about it both ways. My takeaways overall are, I don't think there'll be that much difference in load for players season by season. I'll be honest with you, yeah. They play loads of games anyway, so I don't think there'll be that much difference. And secondly, try and differentiate between the revamping of the footballing calendar, which I think is a good thing, and having a World Cup every 2 years, which I think is obviously for more footballing, political reasons, and you might have strong feelings about it or not, right? Personally, I'm not really bothered either way, if I'm being 100% honest. If you want my honest opinion, I'm going to leave you with something Arsene Wenger said, which I think is really, really, really true. And please check out this interview, it's incredible. But listen to this, so good.
What is a club football today, and I love club football, is but the owners are international people, billionaires who are from all over the world. What is national team is still the only place where the sovereignty of a country is protected. Nobody owns the English national team. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we find for the future a good balance between worldwide football and national team football, you know. And I think the top competitions, international competitions, are a way to protect the national team football.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'll say. I think that we're all in love with club football, but don't forget your country. Don't forget international football. Arsene, you're my hero. See you on the next vid.